if you knew that fun, play, and laughter are fundamental, notice that word fun is in there, to healing into your vibrant health and your happiness and boosting your energy, would you do it? Would you make it a priority? My guess is maybe, well, actually, probably not. Today, we're talking about why. Welcome to the Permission to Play show. I'm Carla White, your spark igniter, and I'll be your guide to turn your exhausted into energized, your alone into connected, your underappreciated into wildly authentic confidence, and your pressure cooker life into your personal power. So if you're yearning to resolve and dissolve the stress, anxiety, tension, aka burnout in your life permanently, you're in the right place. Are you ready to step into ease, fulfillment, and more joy? I thought so. Let's play. So I have two scars that aren't from elective surgery. And I've got quite a few elective surgery scars, which if you've been to one of my shows, you have probably heard about because I talk about them. But one I have on my knee. And if I could actually if I could get my knee up that far, I would show you. It's still quite noticeable. But, I'm just not able to do that. And the other one is on my left wrist. So I'll show you that one. It's actually faded. This one's faded pretty nicely into the fine lines of my 57, soon to be 58-year young skin. So the knee injury actually happened early in the days of kindergarten. So about 50-ish years ago, 50-ish. I don't do mental math, so we're just guessing about that time. Although it's actually pretty easy. Like I would have been probably 6 or 7, so 49. But I don't know. Anyway, I was playing tag. So we had we walked a quarter of a mile uphill both ways to catch the bus, and it was really cold and nice fall day, and we were playing and having fun, running around playing tag with the older kids, and I fell on a broken bottle, and I had to walk the quarter mile back to the house, and I had white, really cute, white knee-high socks on, and they were completely, or the one on the left was completely blood soaked by the time I got home. So I came in, I was crying, it was pretty traumatic. And actually, in actual fact, I was probably over the top dramatic about it, but it was significant. So I did get sutures, and then I had to learn how to keep my knee straight and walk up and down. And so there was no more playing. And I also got special treatment at kindergarten. I didn't get to go out for recess, but the teacher let me ring the bell and bring all the kids back in and out. And I vaguely remember how I felt really special and that I got this attention. And that's for another episode, what all of that meant. But the wrist injury also happened when I was playing, also known as following the big kids. And we were at this 4-H event or some event at a small community hall where there was a bunch of farm equipment beside. So I'm climbing and following these big kids on the farm equipment, and somebody turned a wheel and happened to slice my wrist. Now, thinking back, I could have lost my hand. So, it wasn't as bad, but it still was an injury that I got from playing. So how these two stories even came about was someone asked me about the scars, the very visible scars on my body. And it's, as I'm telling them how I got both of these, it dawned on me that I had some unconscious beliefs from these two incidents, that if I was playing and having fun, there would be consequences and somehow I would get hurt. And it didn't, again, this happened this realization happened like last year. So it's this idea that these things happen and the scars are there, but we possibly don't have a realization of how they impacted us until much, much later. So I also, at the same time, had the realization that every time I had a mentor or a coach say to me, Carla, you just got to play full out. That's how you're going to get, have success. You're going to be, get that joy and laughter that you're looking for, or happiness that you're searching for. Just play full out. And I became aware that every time someone said that to me, that that's what I needed to do in order to have a happier, healthier life, was that I bristled. Like I could feel kind of the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And I didn't know, something in my body was telling me that I shouldn't or I couldn't, but I didn't know why until I had this realization. So it's true that we have all experienced drama, trauma, and lived catastrophe in our lives. And these life experiences have created unconscious beliefs. Sometimes they've created visible scars, but they've created unconscious beliefs and thought patterns, habits, and ways of coping that can impact us years later. So when we're talking about healing and happiness and how do we move forward and get to live the life that we want to live, we've got to take a look at and pay attention to what's happening in our body. And that's, again, another episode where I'll talk about that. But it is this idea of paying attention to realizing that there's stories and experiences that we've had that have created these sometimes visible and often invisible scars or beliefs. And they've had an impact on our drive to thrive. Oh, I like that, drive to thrive, to be our happiest, healthiest, and most lit up self. So we are wired for play. It's actually part of our DNA. Play, fun, and joy are natural ways of being. Like you see it in kids and animals. It's their natural effervescence of play and laughter and joy. And you don't need to teach a kid how to do that. It comes naturally. But as we have these life experiences, we become conditioned away from it. And we don't have the energy. We don't make the time for it. And before you say, Carla, make time, I have none to spare. That's what we're talking about next week. But for today, I want to share with you the 6 reasons that we don't play. And these are in no in particular order, but it's something that at certain points in my life, I have experienced these, and this is what I see in my clients and other people, that the reasons that we don't play and we don't step into or reach our goals are perfectionism. So I was told, and I knew this about myself, that I was very playful when I was young. And then I had some experiences that I made a decision at some point that if I was just perfect, that I would not be hurt again, or I would not have my parents go through some of the pain that they had gone through. And so this perfectionism, which is really just my protective personality, perfectionism developed very strong. And I would often say that I was a recovering perfectionist. And I'll talk a lot more about perfectionism and how we don't want to completely recover from perfection, because there is an energy there that is helpful in the way that we look at it and how it can be helpful to us, and when it gets into stopping us from having fun and play and vibrant health and vivacious energy. Secondly is a fixed mindset. So we used to, if you've ever heard the line, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, that was like from the, I don't know, 50s, 60s, or I don't know, when I was young, I remember hearing that, well, you can't teach a dog new tricks. Not true. We now know that there's something called neuroplasticity in the brain, and that we can rewire our brain. And it's often easier than you think, but it's from going from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and understanding that you hold the power and you are able to have more of a growth mindset. And again, I'll talk about these, unpack these a lot further in upcoming episodes. The other one is extreme stress. And this is that piece of, I don't have the energy, I'm exhausted, I'm I'm just in survival mode. I saw somebody had posted, that I just am, the best I could do was, I can't remember, it was something about feeding, what she was feeding her kids. And it was like, Mama, just take a deep breath, because we're all doing the best that we can. And we have a tendency to beat ourselves up about that, but we don't have the energy. We don't have the energy. And that comes from that extreme stress that keeps us in fight or flight mode, survival mode. It's part of how we are. Exhaustion, I mentioned that. The next one is guilt, shame, and paranoia. And actually, guilt and shame are just part of all of the emotions that many of us feel as moms and working women. The mom guilt and shame, again, we'll get into all of these and unpack them later. But paranoia, you may have heard me, if you've seen me before, you've heard me talk about paranoia, where paranoia is where we look at all of the fabulous lives of people online, and our neighbors and our friends, and we compare ourselves. It's a completely normal thing to do, to compare ourselves to others. But what happens is, if it starts to make you feel bad about yourself, or you recognize that there's some areas in your life that don't compare to others, that's when it's paranoia. And we have a tendency to go there, and it doesn't have to be that way. The last one is fear. Now, I did a lot of research and worked on fear, mainly by having all the fears. There was a time in my life when I was afraid of so many things, and we actually have only two innate fears that we're born with. One is loud noises, which makes you, when you hear a loud noise and a baby jumps, that's a fear response. And the other one is, let me think. Oh, falling. I think it was falling. Yeah, I think it was falling. And I discovered from climbing a 105-foot aerial ladder when I was firefighting that it wasn't the fear of falling, it wasn't the fear of heights that I thought I had. It was the fear of falling to my death. So, that lands. But we have these fears that will hold us back from living an extraordinary life. So those are the six. And again, we're going to unpack those more in the upcoming episodes. But for right now, I want to know if any of those, perfectionism, fixed mindset, extreme stress, exhaustion, guilt, shame, paranoia, or fear, if any of that lands with you. If it does, put an emoji or some kind of comment in the comments section, and let me know if you've ever experienced any of those. So here's the rest of the story. I finally gave myself permission to play. That's where the title for this show came from, is that I really got to a place in my life where I realized that was that probably had the biggest impact on my whole healing journey. And it didn't just happen like, oh, I decided, well, I'm going going to give myself permission to play. I talked about it, and then I had to do the unpacking of how I was actually going to be able to do that. Much the same as when I came off the antidepressants after being on them for 10 years and decided, okay, how the heck do I live without that? So it is this process of healing and unlearning and shifting and learning new ways of being that happens, but it starts with a decision or giving ourselves permission to actually go there and have the courage to play and have fun. So I had to create a superflow system, which is what I call my kind of the habits and rituals, routines, whatever you want to call it, that I call sort of my daily happiness habits. And it's actually, I call them happiness habits because happiness is, I mean, it's what's that called? An alliteration, happiness habits, but it's actually joy that I'm striving for and want in my life. And that has been what it's really all been about, is to feel more joy, feel that fulfillment, have meaningful moments and really deep connected relationships. I created this superflow system, which has those daily habits in it, so that I can keep myself at the top of that emotional spiral. Remember when I told you about my editor saying this personal development stuff never ends? It wasn't quite true, in that we're always expanding and growing, but it's not as hard work as we believe it is. So that's it's healing, and it's not work or personal development. It's how I had to, the habits and the thoughts and the beliefs that I needed to change to transform so that I could lead an extraordinary life. And that's what I want for you too. So if you're interested in creating your own superflow system to break through burnout, drop the word flow in the comments below. And the other thing that I wanted to, just before we wrap up here, is invite you to the Cocktails and Connection community for all of my Regenopause rock stars. And I'm going to put the link in the show notes, but if you head to laughwithcarla.com and click on Connect with Carla, you can find it there to sign up for the Cocktails and Connection community, where we have lots of fun. So that's it for this week. Make sure that you tune in every Friday as I bring you insights with a sprinkle of play, some fun and laughter, all designed to remind you that perimenopause and menopause are just the beginnings of a dazzling new chapter I'm calling Regenopause. So it's time to grant yourself permission to play, to live full out. Please like, comment, and share the video with your gal pals who also might need to reignite your spark, and make sure you use #permission to play.